Thank you. A big round of applause to all the speakers over the past almost 2.5 days of workshops, tutorials, and speakers. And we have come together back in this hall to give a final round to the lightning talks. And we will start with the startup talks. There were 10 altogether, and we had 5 yesterday. And we'll start with Carousel, a startup talk, and it will be done by Victor. So Carousel is another startup that is using Python technologies. So a little bit of Carousel. Snap list sell, create free listing to sell items in 30 seconds. And Carousel is making second-hand buying and selling simple, inspiring, serendipitous for everyone. So I'm really curious to know how Python is being used in this platform to build Carousel. So here with us is Victor, and as usual, Victor will have 8 minutes.
All right, thanks. So I'm sure most of you have items that you once bought in excess, and so these are the things that you left one corner in your room. So, I mean, if you want to sell them, you have to take photos of them, you have to copy it to your computer, and then finally do some editing, and then finally upload it to a forum that's relevant to the item that you're selling. So this can really be quite a pain if you have a couple of items, and downright frustrating when you've got tons of things. So this is what we at Carousel set up to solve. We want to make selling as easy as just being 3 steps: snap, list, and sell. And of course, we want to make buying equally easy as well. So ever since last year at Startup Weekend, when we were known as Snap Sell, and so the 3 co-founders, after they won the competition, decided, okay, this is going to work. So they came out with Carousel, and so the aim is to make buying and selling great experience, make it look beautiful so that users will want to buy, and most of all, use the app consistently. So to power this shopping experience, we have actually a very simple stack. I'm sure most Django developers here would recognize this. So our main mobile APIs are powered using Django, Memcache for caching, Celery for our backend tasks, and a simple Postgres for our main database, and with PostGIS for geospatial queries. So this is very common for web development stack these days. I mean, most web developers will have set up this before, and a big part of this is because Django is really great for startups. I mean, if you're looking to do a new startup these days, you should pick Django first. And so I'll cover the 2 main reasons why we chose Django over other popular libraries, micro frameworks like Flask, Bottle, and also more full-featured ones such as Pyramid, Web2Py, Zope, and Pylons. So Django, the first reason. If you can think of it, there's got to be a third-party library for it. So these are a couple of third-party libraries we use. Debug Toolbar, great for developers. Cities for some geo queries. Jenkins for task integration. And the first iteration of our API was built on Piston, which is long obsolete now, no longer maintained. So recently, we've moved it over to REST framework. And also, if you're using Postgres, you can make use of the full text search. So these are all great features that you can use right off the bat without having to write any code, which is great for startups, especially at early stages. You want to iterate based on user feedback. You don't want to be writing all these nitty-gritty features right off the bat. So the community has been really vibrant. So new packages come out every day. So yeah. So the next big reason is the ORM. So for some developers, they hate it. Some people, they love it. And we find that it provides us the right amount of abstraction that we need. So we don't have to get down to all the SQL right away. And so there's only been one particular use case that we really had to optimize for, and that's when users browse through our listings. So we implemented what we call infinite scrolling. So this is a screenshot from our iOS app. So as they scroll through the app, they will just get to do what we call window shopping nonstop. And users loved it. They just want to lie on their bed and scroll the app the whole day. So this became quite slow as the number of users increased. So that was really the time we had to put on our DB admin hat to find out why. So simple Django query. You annotate, we try to show listings that have at least a photo, and then we sort them by we filter them by some other criteria, and then we sort them. I mean, this looks simple enough, but horrendously, this is the output SQL. And to fit it into this slide, I had to rename tables, rename columns. So just in case you're wondering, this really isn't Django's fault. It is actually our fault. I mean, this is what happens if you do too much naive normalization right off the bat. You really just want to just get it to work. So it took about 5 seconds to run that query at peak hours. So that was a really horrible time for us. And on a side note, if you're using Postgres as your database, you should really turn this option on. It will lock down any queries that take more than, say, if you set it to be a second, so only queries that take more than a second to run will show up. So this is great if you want to identify queries that are taking too long to run. And then, so the usual techniques apply. We add in the indexes that, for columns that were missing them. We did some denormalization, and then this query took like sub 10 milliseconds to run at most, even during peak hours. So that's been fantastic for us. And all our other queries still run less than 50 milliseconds. So this is great. I mean, you got a powerful ORM abstracts the database for you, so you don't have to write all the SQL right away. I mean, you can use it in future, but right away, I mean, since last year, this has been working great for us. So if you even want more, if you want even more visibility into how your app is performing, you should really use New Relic. It's easy to integrate, and you can get quite a number of feedback on whether your Python code is slow, or whether it's your DB function call that's slow. So we've been using New Relic a lot, and it has helped us identify quite a number of bottlenecks in our app. So other things that we've been looking at recently, NLTK, it's got an amazing WordNet. Scikit-learn, they've got machine learning algorithms that we want to deploy and use. So if you are pretty good at any of this, please come talk to us, and we could use your knowledge. And what set up to be just an app to solve a couple man's problem turned out to build a great, amazing community for us over the past year. And on a final note, we are looking for any developers, iOS, web, who are interested to work with us to make buying and selling an even more greater experience, passionate about what we do. Please come talk to us. We are over at that corner, carousel, in red shirt. So even if you're a student, you're looking for internship, part-time, we are right over there. Please feel free to talk to us. And thanks, that will be all.
So next up we have StatSit. And StatSit will be next speaking to us about their startup, which is an insight and recommendations agency that brings together a digital age visionary, seasoned strategy, and cutting-edge math nerds in market and consumer research projects. So here you go, another demo of Python technologies being used in science and research. And you will also have 8 minutes. Your time starts now.
All right, you pretty much said everything I have. But I'm Siim, and I will be ranting a bit about StatSit then. So we in StatSit do market and consumer research, and different from traditional research agencies, we exclusively use social media conversations as our data set. So you don't have us calling you asking about your favorite beer or your favorite pizza. We just get all this data by recklessly following and spying after you in social media. Now, as it is, we are more like a consultancy than a product company. So our end product that goes to customer boils down to 4 to 6 pages of PPT slides. And for that, we have a team of analysts, social media and business analysts who put it together. But under that, we actually have a system that, first of all, collects data from different sources, social media sources like Twitter, Facebook, their analogs in China. We have crawlers going through blogs, news sites, and forums. About technology stack, it's pretty much standard. Crawling scripts, full text indexing, queues, relational, non-relational databases, and so on, so on. I guess I have to throw a bomb here and say that most of this system is built in PHP. So when Python comes into game is that some time ago we just kind of realized that throughout different consultancy projects that we have run, we actually are sitting on shitloads of data, and we started to look how to utilize this data that we have been collecting, and then we turned to Python. So we have been using pandas library, scikit-learn, NLP tools to kind of first of all get a better understanding on the data that we have. And I can definitely say that the Python has given us kind of a better command and awareness of the data that we actually have. And this combined with cooperation with customers, we have been able to kind of turn from very strictly being a consultancy company to also provide some products to our customers. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. This one goes to you.
Thank you, Sim. So that's an example of how we can use Python technologies in research and data. Next up, we have Beauty Plan. Beauty Plan is another startup, a social network for makeup artists, nail artists, hairstylists to share their work. So a creative platform to share your creativity in these fields. Beauty enthusiasts can join, create a profile, and upload to their works. They can also send their writings to be curated by Beauty Plan and featured in Beauty Plan's article section in the web. So I'm really curious how they are using Python for this platform that they're building on the web.
Hello everyone, I'm Rolis from Beauty Plan, and I'm here want to make a short introduction for beautyplan.com. Let's start with a simple illustration. When ladies want to go to the party, they usually need some reference for their makeover. In this point, maybe they don't know yet what kind of makeover that they want to do. So the first thing, or maybe the easiest thing that they will do is they search for beautician on Google. With hope they will get some reference for their makeover or something like that from the beautician blogs or website or something. But unfortunately, they only get unrelated result all over pages. And that's why Beauty Plan is born. But what is the Beauty Plan itself? Beauty Plan is curated media based on social network platform for beauty enthusiasts, and also it's social commerce for beauty products. And because we built a Beauty Plan based on social interaction, so all members can give their feedback, their reviews, their comments, or even their sample work on the Beauty Plan in videos, photos, and limited to the articles. And how about the social commerce? We put all items, all sections in the Beauty Plan in connected to the products. So if you see detailed articles, you will see what product that we use in this article and what product is used in these photos and these videos. This method will trigger the commerce by the social interaction between the visitors, bloggers, and also the experts. And now, because the next slide is not my expertise, so my friends here will help the technologies behind the Beauty Plan.
Okay, so let's continue with Python at Beauty Plan. So we use Python to build our REST API, Stream API, and to monitor those API. The first one, REST API. We don't want to write from scratch, so we use Flash and Flash RESTful. We serve JSON only, and we use GUnicorn as web server and gEvent as its worker. This is our early consumer. It's our internal mobile web apps. So the next one is Stream API. At that time, our use case was how to build a real-time notification system. We have to push notification into the web browser. So the solution was gEvent socket.io. And we used Redis PubSub to listen to and notify latest activity. This is how we design our Stream API. It's quite simple. And this is the result. It's something Facebook-like notification. So the last part is how we monitor our APIs. The first one is we use Sentry to track all errors. We analyze and visualize request time, status code, etc. from log file. The interesting part is we use a combination of 2NG, Elasticsearch, Kibana, and Graph. This is our design. So that's all. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. and Rory And next up we have locations. So Venkat will be telling us about locations. Locations is a startup in the travel space. So if you're looking to travel and compare tour packages from the traditional brick and mortar travel agencies, locations might be the answer for you. They are located in Singapore, and Venkat here with us will be telling us how they are using Python to solve this and have a web presence.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Venkat, co-founder of Locations. In a startup or in any company, changing the platform, changing the development platform or framework is not an easy decision, but we have done it at Location. So we thought of sharing our experience with you guys in this short presentation. First, I'll give a brief introduction about how Location has been started and why did we move from PHP coding native to Python Django and how Django solved our problems. Okay, it hasn't started by crazy guys, and we all met in an event called Startup Weekend, and we managed to get the prototype out in 54 hours. After that, we have been working on part-time. After a few months, we joined JFDI, where we were working so hard, as you can see. And after that, we were trying to raise funding and also get more users during the JFDI period. And last December, we got the funding. Even though we couldn't get our own jet, but we got some paper jet. Okay, now with the product, the first version of product was solving the problem of where can you go for your budget. So if you have few $100, for that dollar, where can you fly? So for this version, we chose PHP. The main reason is we wanted to get something out as soon as possible, and also we want to use all the resources because in the 4 co-founders, 3 guys knows PHP. So that's the main reason we use PHP. And we chose Coordinator because it's very easy to learn. The new version was solving a problem like it's basically you can search for the travel packages from local travel agencies. So new version got new set of problems. So we thought this is the right time to change our framework because we faced some limitation with the Coordinator and PHP. So we thought these are the possible choices we had. So Python, Django, Node.js Express, and Ruby on Rails. Finally, we chose Django. The main reason is, though all the other frameworks can solve the same problems, but we chose Django. Main reason is it's well documented. No magic happens. You know exactly what happens everywhere. You're doing the explicit configuration, so you know the system. and admin interface, which is crucial for our system. So once we solve the problem of choosing the framework, now we need to find out what are the best practices that you can use in the Django framework. This book was very useful, Two Scoops of Django. It explains about how you need to lay out your project and how the configuration and requirement files, how you can maintain a different way for different environments, as well as when to use the function-based views, class-based views. Those things have been explained in a very nice way. This book is worth it to read it. So the next topic is, what are the crucial components of Django that we are using at Flocations? First is Django admin interface. It's a default package comes with the Django. It helps you to manage the content. You can manage your content by normal SQL in the SQL shell, but if you're going to give the same interface to your business guy, you know what's going to happen. So this admin interface exactly solves the problem of managing the content. It normally supports by default, it supports the CRUD interface, but you can add custom actions very easily. So if you can see, in just one line, you can add one model. You can expose a model in the admin interface. For example, line number 6, admin.site.register. You can just add the tour package. So the tour package model will be exposed in the admin interface. But if you want to customize the admin interface, you can just, if you see the first 3 lines, the second line is list display, then whatever the column you want to expose. So it's very easy to customize. So if you're not using it, just start using it. And the next one is, now we have some data. We want to have the free text search capability in our data. So we are using this Haystack. Haystack is a wrapper around many search engines. Currently, we are using the search engine called Solar, but Haystack supports Solar, Elasticsearch, Whoosh, and Sapien. So the advantage is, it's a wrapper. You write the code only once, and later you can change the search engine, whatever the search engine you want. So now we have data and search capability. Now we want to expose it as an API. For that, we are using the Django REST framework. Nowadays, in all the modern apps, you have some API. So whoever has run the API, they know the pain of explaining the API and changes to others. So this Django framework provides a web browsable API. So explaining to other developer or freelancer is very, very easy. And it also provides like authentication and serialization that supports. So basically, you can expose your model as an API, as well as from non-ORM sources like Haystack. So in our case, we'll be getting the data from Haystack and expose it in its API. And the next one is, so here so we'll just a simple example. If you see the line number 7, 8, 9, in just 3 lines, you get the paginated travel agency list API. You just pass as per line number 8, code is set, so you just get all the data that you want to show it as an API, and so you pass the serializer class. So now we have some API. We want to check our code is working fine or not. So for that, of course, you need to write a unit test. So generating test data is one of the problems in unit test. If you're trying to maintain the test data using the JSON fixtures, it's very difficult. And for that, if you're using the factory boy, it's very easy to maintain, because in case of JSON fixtures, you need to, whenever you do the database migration, you need to update your JSON fixtures. So if you're using factory boy, it's like a breeze. And the factory boy has been, it's based on the factory girl for Ruby. Okay, now we have some unit tests, but still your code might have some bug. So how do you debug? For debugging, import ipdb, ipdb.settrace. Just remember these 2 lines for any Python program. The ipdb is interactive Python shell debugger. It's very easy to use. You just go into it will just drop you into the Python shell, IPython shell, so you can actually check all the objects and methods, even the documentation from the Python shell. So in summary, we have seen that Django admin interface is mainly for managing your content, and Haystack for free text search, and Django REST framework for REST API, Factory Boy for getting the test data, import ipdb, ipdb.settrace is for debugging your code. Next, we are hiring. We are quite flexible. So even if you're a full-timer, part-timer, or freelancer, it's OK for us. And if you're college students, you can just apply for internship. We're quite open. So if you just want to see our work culture, You get some delicious food sometimes. You can learn yoga. You get some free massage too. So don't think too much. Join us. Thank you.
Let's move on to the lightning talks. Lightning talks by some of you who have been daring enough to put up your talks right up there in the whiteboard and get voted. So I'll call up the first one. And this talk has 4 votes. It's called Sphinx Docs by James Rivet Karnak.
Hello, I'm James Rivet Karnak. I work with MediaPop. We are a web development company, mostly Django stack, with my coworkers over there. I will be honest, this presentation is selfish. I work with someone who used to be a Ruby developer, and he complains quite a bit about the state of our documentation in Python. So I figured, hey, let's give a quick talk on setting up your Sphinx stuff. So I will be doing this by replaying a lot of Git commits. So git log. Starting at the bottom, I'm going to assume you guys understand how to create a virtual environment and install packages. So we will go to eventually making this, which can be found over there, with all the documentation for everything. So without further ado, the first thing you do, is you create a documentation point for your docs, where you want your docs to be stored, and you run Sphinx quick start, which I won't run because we don't have time. It will ask you some questions that are very obvious. I would suggest you say yes to autodoc and view code. Once you have that, you have to edit the configuration file, because if we run it now, you'll see it didn't find any oh, there's nothing there. Didn't find it because it couldn't find our modules. If I can type. So add to your path where you want your project to be, which I have created in the gloriously named LT Sphinx, with some things in it. Inside, that's not right. Well, when you then create this, you add, oh, that's not very readable, is it? Well, you add a doc string for each of your modules, which is all just restructured text. And all of the directives, like module, where you define what your module is the documentation is on Sphinx website. And add your documentation with things like what parameters you're taking and what you're returning. And when you run your documentation, when you run the build docs, it should find everything. Oh, wait, we didn't include anything in our table of contents. So when you have to create a file for each module that you have, which you can do with API doc with your output directory, and where you want to get your modules from. And it's now, as you can see, it created a LT Sphinx restructure and the modules thing. And it populates everything for you automatically, which you then add into your index. All right, well, at the end, you will end up with everything linked together. So I ran out a bit of time there with my typing. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Asking during the lunchtime. So that was James with Sphinx Doc. Next up, we have an interesting title, Beautiful Code by the Power of Magic Methods by Bjorn Henderson.
Hello. So beauty, it's something that's come up a couple of times these past 2 days. People keep talking about how you want to have your things beautiful. Well, what is beauty? According to Wikipedia, beauty is a characteristic of a person, animal, place, object, or an idea that provides a perceptual experience of pleasure or satisfaction. Basically, it feels nice. You see the thing, you can get an idea, you understand it, and you like it. And what does this have to do anything with programming? Well, quite a lot. David Gelernter is a guide. I don't really know what he do anymore, but once upon a time he wrote a book called Elegance in the Heart of Machine Beauty, Elegance in the Heart of Technology, and he says, beauty is more important in computing than anywhere else in technology because software is so complicated. Beauty is the ultimate defense against complexity. And this is something that keeps coming up as we talk about software. We see this in the Unix philosophy. And they talk about we have to make sure things are small, simple programs, make it beautiful. We have to make things clear. We have to make sure people understand what's going on, that we as people understand it. The rule of least surprise, a person that knows the things that know the space you're working in, they should instinctively understand what your program is all about. And we have the rule of generation, saying that a programmer should not be doing low-level stuff, which fits in very well with what we're doing here. We're using a high-level language to make sure we can get lots of things done in a short amount of time. Together with this, we also have the son of Python, which is some really nice koans. For those who haven't read it, please do import this in the Python prompt and you'll see it. And here, the very first one, beautiful is better than ugly. Straight off the bat, beauty. Simple is better than complex. So here again, complexity is something we just have tried to avoid. Readability counts. It's supposed to be understood by humans, not computers. So here it comes in. And the principle of least surprise comes in here as well. What we keep talking about here is there should be one and preferably only one way to do something. But it's not always obvious. You might have to be Dutch to understand it. So Python programmers, we eschew complexity. We like things that are simple. And, doing what we do, we act more like artists than anything else. We spend our days trying to make something beautiful that expresses the thoughts and ideas we have in our head. We do not spend our time. We have a lot of weird stuff going on. And I lost my track. Sorry. And again, simplicity. And the simplicity that we take away with our beautiful code makes that we can express beautiful, simple ideas, and that allows us to perform amazing things. Some of the amazing things we can perform is machine learning, which makes our computers make good, educated guesses. They can understand why something might come to happen, why politicians vote the way they do, simply because they've done it before. Really weird? Works out. We can do natural language processing, making the computer understand what we're doing. We can have so this kind of also ties in with robotics. So where are we going to go in the future? And we can build a lot of cool stuff. The big question, though, is what kind of robots are we going to get? Are we going to get something like Marvin, the depressed android with a brain the size of a planet? A guy that is depressed? Or are we going to get something more like Blade Runner, people who they don't think at all? Or do androids dream of electric sheep? But I don't think that's an important question. What I wonder is, do hackers dream of beautiful code? I think so. Thank you.
It's about beauty and programming. Next up, we have something about Titanic. How to avoid the sinking of Titanic in your talks. Right, so that kind of sounds about speaking. Speaking, now that's something we have been doing for the past 2 days. And our likely speaker this time has some tips for us, I believe. So let's see what he has to say.
First of all, I'm not an expert on presentations. It's just a few ideas I got in all my experience from when I started to do some small presentations. So it's pretty much how to avoid the sinking of the Titanic on your talks. So I remember pretty well the first time I need to do a speech was a class in a classroom. I was in the university on the 3rd grade, and I want to challenge myself to do some speech. So I speak with some teacher, and I tell him, you know, I want to do a class, and in my university there's something like assistantship, like and students make the practical part of a theory class. Usually it's mathematics stuff. So the teacher do the theory, and some students do the practical part. So I offered me to do the practical part. I was really shy. So the first class, I just arrived at the place, and I was, oh my God. I really feel like I was in the Titanic. Oh, not this Titanic, this another one. I really feel like I was really sinking myself in the Titanic. So many of you guys feel nervous if you need to make a speech in front of many people. I'm one of these. Actually, I'm quite nervous now. Huh? So that's pretty much reaches to the next point, but I want to finish my story. So I got a really brilliant idea at that moment, and it was, oh, why not? I drink 2 scoops of pisco. This is a Chilean alcohol. It's kind of like a tequila. So I drink 2 ones, and I say, well, a little bit dizzy. I didn't feel really shy. So I went to the class. It was okay. Second one, I said, no, I cannot be alcoholic, you know? So I drink 1. The third one, I drink half of one, and the 4th one, I drink a little bit more, and the 5th one, I stop. So this reaches pretty much to the next one. Be relaxed. I would like to make an exercise, a little exercise that I learned from yoga lessons. There's no time to make it really deep, but we could try to do this a little bit or less. It's an exercise just to manage the breathing. It's pretty much a inhale, exhale. So before you start something that could be you could be feeling nervous about, you inhale, exhale. If it didn't work, you can make a little pressure on your muscles or your perineums. You push up. So this pretty much situates you in the present time. Because usually anxiety is because you're thinking so much in the future. So you make this push-up, and you inhale, exhale, and then you feel more relaxed. And you can speak clearly after that. If it doesn't work, I suggest you to take yoga lessons, or go to meditation classes, or Tai Chi, or whatever you want. So, second advice I will tell you guys is see the people's eyes. So seeing the people's eyes, you could avoid things like this. Yeah? And pretty much you can create some interaction. You will see the eyes, and you could identify if the people is putting attention, if they have faces of interest, if they're boring or something, so you can change in the middle of your presentation. So this leads us to create some interactions with the people. Make questions to the people, let the people raise their hands or give their opinions. So you're going to create this interaction, this feedback with the people you are talking about. Be honest. It's really easy to to see when someone is lying. You know, it's if, for example, if you're a beginner, there's nothing bad about to say, I'm a beginner of this. Or if someone make a question, if they say, I have no idea about the answer. That's pretty simple. Nobody gonna judge you. Well, probably some, but you're not gonna be a big trouble. Make it simple. Don't try to solve or create human peace with your speech. Just try to make it simple, make a clear message, and don't be things like this, you know, terrible. There's no need to be so serious. Sometimes you see people making speeches, have the face like this, and blah, 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 blah. You know, if you prepare, for example, some jokes, you're gonna make you're gonna create more interaction, especially stories and jokes. I think I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna pass this. Personal experience.
Right.
It's just a few seconds more, okay? Personal experience rather than big theories, and practice, practice, practice. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I put it off.
Thank you, Luis, for the Titanic talk on giving talks. Right, and lastly, we have episode NGO by PyCon Japan by Iqbal.
Hello everyone, my name is Iqbal, I'm from Japan and I'm part of the, we've started a new NGO called PyCon JP in Japan and I'm part of the team there. So, what I'll tell you about today is about the state of PyCon in JP and why we started the PyCon NGO in Japan. So we had a mini PyCon, we started having PyCon in Japan with a mini version in 2011 and then a bigger version in the same year, and then the latest PyCon was last year. And as you know, Ryoichiro mentioned yesterday that we're going to have the APAC version, the APAC for PyCon in Japan this year in September. Right, so why would you want to have a PyCon NGO? I guess if you are in your own locales, you might want to have an NGO for events, PyCon. First is because of cash management. You'll be receiving money from sponsors and you need to have an entity that will manage the cash. Next, to sign contracts, well, sponsors is one, but you have vendors like the food people, the network people that you need to sign contracts to, and you can't do it in a personal name. Basically, that's not a really good idea, so you will have a legal entity. So that's one of the biggest reasons why we created the NGO. And also, finally, the front end for sponsorships. So I just can't go to Google and say, can you give me $10,000 and put it in my bank account for PyCon? So it doesn't really work that way. So it'd be best if you have a legal entity that will have a bank account under that entity name and you can receive money from sponsorship to that account. So these are the three reasons why we had the NGO in JP. Right, so in JP I think this is pretty much different for each locale. So for us it's pretty much easy, it's straightforward. You just hire a Scrivener and you pay around US 2,000 and they'll register the business name for you, and then with that you can bring that to any bank and you say you want to have a bank account under this particular entity name. What you need to do for JP at least is you have to decide who gets on board, so who's basically the directors, and then you need to write an articles of incorporation. So what does the board do, when does the year ends, and then what are the current business that, well, what do we do as an entity. So for an NGO, it's a no-no if you say that we're going to make money. So for PyCon JP especially, we have said there in the articles of incorporation that any excess cash that we have will be contributed back to, in order of importance, anything related to Python, and then maybe, I'm not sure if it's there, but for open source. Do we have open source, Terada-san, to give back the money? Back? No. Okay, I'm sorry. So I don't think we have open source in the articles of incorporation, so we can only give back the money to something that's related to Python. Okay, so usually you have a template for this and the Scrivener will help you out. Now, what do we do with the PyCon JP NGO is, how do we manage it? It is not a body that makes decisions. So that's pretty much important to us. So when we have things like PyCon, the organizing committee for that particular will most probably be different than the previous year. And venues, what do we do, what the programs are, and who will we call as keynotes, how much money we're going to spend are all decided by the organizing committee for that particular year, and the PyCon NGO basically doesn't see anything towards that. So it basically creates different levels so that the organizing committee will have 100% decision-making power instead of people on top. Well, not really top, I guess, in the NGO will not every time interfere with the decision-making process. So we treat it as a totally different organization than the committee for PyCon. What we do though is because we hold the cash, so we will basically tell the committee how much money they can spend for that particular year. So basically that's what we do. So you have like, let's say you have a $50,000 US, so you can spend this much. And then you tell us how much sponsorship you need, and then the rest is up to you. So in the long run, what we plan to do is we want to expand PyCon over in JP. We do it in more various places, and hopefully to make a boost on the uptake of Python in APAC as a whole. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you. Just in time, thank you so much for sharing with us how to run an organization. All right, so next up we have Ivan, where are you? And he will be sharing some tips with us on public speaking. Hey, come on, we are at a conference, you know, even though we are awesome developers, we also speak to share our ideas. So Ivan will also be there, telling us his point of view on speaking and maybe some slides and presentation as well. So let's see what Ivan has for us.
Okay, I actually had the same idea as Luis. It's a recurrent theme, and I'll be a little bit more nasty, but I'll be a little bit more practical. So when you come up on stage and give a presentation, you actually want to communicate something and you want people to remember it. And there are a few practical tips to follow. Actually, only 3 items you need to remember. Put less stuff on your slides. That applies to number of words, number of bullet points. Use less styles. Now, bigger is better. That applies to your font sizes and to your graphics. And contrast matters. The colors of your fonts, the line colors of your graphs, whatever is on your foreground, make it sure it's visible on your background. And what you see on your computer screen is 1000% certain it's going to be different on a projector screen. Now, when you talk, speak up. And don't look like this on your, yeah. And yeah, manage your time. This is important because somebody after you will be speaking. If you know nothing about presentations, read this blog. I mean, he talks about many more things, but presentations as well. He has a free book, e-book. Find and read it. If you want to go into more details, look up this guy. He wrote a book called Presentation Zen that gives a lot of tips on how to make presentations. And if after this you still make a bad presentation, read this paper, because people will throw tomatoes at you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan. Thanks, Ivan. So lots of tips about how we can use Python in startups, how we can speak out and present our slides better, how we can organize conferences or even attend conferences in other countries. And lastly, we have Chinmay, and he will be speaking something about the Raspberry Pi and the way. How many of you heard of Raspberry Pi? How many? Wow, that's a lot. How many of you hacked up something with Raspberry Pi? Oh wow! So you just bought it and it's there in your shelf. Yeah, that's the only reason I have bought it.
Unfortunately, I'm also one of them who has just a Raspberry Pi in his shelf. I've not really played. Yeah, I do. Right, so it's a Python conference and nobody talked about Raspberry Pi. I'm really sad. So I decided I'll quickly talk about, well, I'll quickly talk about a competition that's coming up in Singapore. If you're a student especially, or even a developer in Singapore, do check out Code Extreme Apps, which is happening in August. It's a competition where it's a hackathon competition. So 24 hours, you come up with something, you get judged, and you win prizes. The cool thing, this year's platform is Raspberry Pi. And so you're allowed to make any home automation idea based on a Raspberry Pi or Arduino. If you don't know how to use a Raspberry Pi, if you don't know what to do with the Raspberry Pi, there will be trainings. They're going to basically teach you basics of Raspberry Pi or Arduino. You get a choice. The trainings are free. The competition is free. If you're interested in learning or if you're just interested in hacking, go down, get yourself some Raspberry Pi love, and hack away. By the way, they do give out free Raspberry Pis and Arduinos if you take part in the competition. So free swag is good. That's all.
So that is the end of the lightning talks, but of course we have some exciting prizes. The judges have been observing us through the hidden cameras in this hall for the past 2 days, and they have been using pandas and IPython to do complex computation with Python to come up with the results. And Calvin, should we have your honor to announce them and give it out? Yes?
I have 2 other winners here. How many books?
Oh, we will let you know the winners. Yeah, the secret speakers will speak to your ears, the judges back there. And there you go. As I said, IPython notebook will churn out the results of the 16 lucky winners.
Alright, so
N equals to 16, West.
So I see that the random number generator was today's date, so so it's fixed. Generate a permutation, and here are the winners. I can't remember, but if you got a book at the tutorial, my tutorial on Thursday, then I'll just add 1 to the 16 or something. So, and if somebody's not here, then we'll keep increasing the number until because this is the same every time. So I can run this again and the draws are the same.
So could we have them come up one by one? All right, so Sun Heng Lao, where are you? Specially autographed by Wes. Next we have Penny Chua Han Mian from A-Star, Singapore.
Thanks for not making me serious.
Not here today.
If you're not here today, should we give it away to someone else? All right, we'll keep it for prize. Next we have Penny Chia Yung Ching. Birdie March. Birdie March. All right, next one, Joshua Ang. Right, next we have Trun No De. Trun. Right, so next we have Morris Ling. Morris. Alright. Tzi Guan Tan. Tzi Guan Tan. Su Min Chiang from I2R. Right, so next we have Daniel Dakota. Lee Satyaman. Satyaman Lee. Next we have Gao Xiang Wang. Gao Xiang Wang. Richard Morris. Richard Morris.
Alright, let's get the next 5 here.
Right, next we have Han Shu Bo.
Not here.
Aruna Harsha. Ning Lim, Aaron Chan, Jack Ong. Wei Hong Chung. Zhang Wu. Zhang Wu. Right, great. So we have extra books, which means more prizes for the lightning speakers. Awesome. Alright, so great. So we'll give out prizes for the lightning speakers. So let me speak to the judges behind the scenes for a while. Thank you, Leo. Yes. Lightning speaker. So we have 3 lightning speaker and 1 for you. And next we have Bjorn Anderson, lightning speaker. James Rivet Garner. And we have Iqbal. Okay, so the judges behind the screens have given us their replies. Oh yes, they were checking out some complex algorithms to give us the 3 winners of the lightning speakers, who will get 1 book and 1 mouse pad. Okay? So the 3 winners in no order. The first one is Bill Ping, Ruben. Ruben is not here to represent him with Lawrence for Bill Ping Startup. Next up we have Carousel Victor. And lastly, Lightning Talk Lewis, the Titanic Talk. A book and a mouse pad. Thank you, everyone. Kelvin, it's to you now.
So, guys, thank you very much for coming to this PyCon. It's actually the first Singapore PyCon. The previous 3 years were all Asia Pac PyCon. And this year, the PyCon Asia Pac, as you already know, is going to be in Japan. So for those who can make it, I would highly encourage you to make a trip. Thank you so much for coming. Tonight, we are going to have some unofficial after party. We didn't really have the bandwidth to organize an after party, even though our sponsor wanted to come in. So we have an unofficial one, informal one, 7 to 9 at Brewworks. Any show of hands who might be interested to go? Okay, so we do have some people who would like to hang out 7 to 9 at Brewworks. So just pop in. I'm not expecting the whole crowd to come. But if it shows up, then we'll just flood the place. Yeah. It's going to be an unofficial thing. So if you want to hang out and talk Python with more of our fellow programmers, you can do that 7 to 9 tonight at Brewworks. So see you then. Thank you.